Hi everyone, this is Tammy, owner of Worthy, Worth It, and Priceless, and today's podcast is titled God Has Not Forgotten About You. So, I know that once we go through certain situations, it seems as though God has forgotten about us. He's forgotten about our promises or the promises that He's given us, or just forgotten about us, period. But what I want to give you encouragement for is that He hasn't really forgotten about you. It may just be He's putting everything in place. So about 2 years ago, I was looking for an apartment for me and my daughter. And I already had it planned out. I met with people and they were saying around this time, this would have been around basically this month in July, they would have had apartments available. I had the first month's rent, the security deposit, and by the 7th of July, I would have had another month's rent. So that would have been like first month, last month, and security deposit. So I'm like, yo, listen, it should have been, in my mind, no way I shouldn't have been able to get an apartment. The thing was this. Every time I went somewhere to try to find an apartment, like I said, they said, oh yeah, we'll have one available by the time that you come around. Then what ended up happening is that whoever was staying in the apartment, they either didn't move out of the apartment or someone else was already ahead on the waiting list, or just no apartments became available. Like they said, it's like, we should have one available around this time. So then I even tried to find an apartment where my mom stays. My mom, the company that owns my mom's buildings or whatever, they have multiple buildings. So they should have had something open, and randomly, like, somebody is probably moving out here, somebody moving out here. It never happened. And then they also lost my application in the process. So I'm like, I filled out an application as soon as I could. I filled out an application. They lost my application. So I really didn't want to stay in an apartment building with so many people, but I really didn't care. I was desperate. I needed to find somewhere to stay for me and my baby. So then, on top of that, I was still looking in other places trying to find apartments. For some reason, no apartments were available. And like anybody would get, I was getting discouraged. I'm like, listen, I'm going to all these different places, even further out than I probably even wanted to stay, just to try to find a place for me and Vea to stay. So one day I was looking on Craigslist, and I see this apartment. It was actually a townhouse. And so Craigslist, you kind of got to be a little leery about stuff or whatever. But it was a townhouse. So I contacted the person. It was an older lady. And she was like, my son to get in contact with you, this, that, and the third. But it's like, I ain't really know, whatever. So anyway, a couple days went past. Her son got in contact with me. Either way, I went to go look at the apartment. The lady was actually I was in apartment B, and she was actually in apartment C, but the door to my apartment was already open. So I just went in, me and my mom and Vea, we just looked around the apartment. It was beautiful. It was like they redecorated, remodeled, and all this other stuff. And so then when we actually seen her, we went into apartment C. I was like, I want the apartment. And she was like, I told her everything. I was like, I can give you a security deposit right now. At that time, the apartment wasn't available, so I wouldn't even be able to move in until August 1st, but that was fine by me. And I signed the lease. It wasn't no problem. Like, I didn't have to do a whole background check or nothing like that, and the apartment was mine. The funny thing about all of this, all those other apartments, it's like two things. All those other apartments, I didn't get those because God was working out something on the other side. My landlord just bought the building. Like, she was like, yeah, I just bought the building, and they just remodeled. My apartment was the first apartment that she remodeled and everything else. And whoever stayed here, I think they just moved out. So God was moving things in my favor, and he was actually having the apartment redecorated, redid just for me. And if I would have got one of those other apartments, I wouldn't have been able to have this apartment. And my apartment is actually a townhouse. I don't have to worry about being in a building or apartment building with a whole bunch of people. It's basically like a townhouse. My baby has a backyard. We have somewhat of a front yard. You know what I mean? And it's quiet, and I don't have to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff. So God was preparing the way for me. The other part of it was that what I wouldn't have known or anything was that a month later, which was September 7th, so I got the apartment. She let me move in like July 31st, but basically, I was able to move in August 1st. What I didn't know was that on September 7th, I would lose my job. If I would have got one of those other apartments, they would have probably definitely kicked me out. And thank God she was a private landlord, and she ended up working with me or whatever. But it was a long, 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 hard road. But at the end of the day, I got rejected from all those places or basically couldn't get any of those apartments for a reason. Because God was already preparing a way for me, and God knew what hardship I was about to go through, and he put my landlord in the right place. My landlord is not even from where I'm from. She's from a different town. So at the end of the day, like, he was working out all those things on the other side. And I know a lot of times we get discouraged, and we're like, what is God doing? Like, he knows I need help, and where is he? But what you don't know is that he's working things out on the other side. He knows what's going to happen next. He knows that, unfortunately, you might lose your job, or this opportunity might come up, or you might be able to do this, that, and the third. But he's going to make a way for you. And just be patient and trust in this process. Realize that God hasn't forgotten about you. God has not abandoned you. He's just getting all the pieces of the puzzle together. So don't rush the process. Don't, I know how it is, because I was there. I sat up there and I was like, God, you forgot about me. I would sit up here and come off of work and go, because we were staying at my mom's house at the time. And I would come in before I, get up for work, basically, pull into the drive, parking lot, whatever, and I would just sit there and cry. Because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was staying at my mom's house. What is going on? Like, why, you know what I mean? I have everything. Why is nothing working out? And nothing wasn't working out. It was because God had a better plan for what was going to happen. Like I said, if I would have got one of those other apartments, I would have been totally messed up, because I lost my job a month later. So they would have definitely kicked me out. Like, you know what I mean? But by the grace of God, my landlord has worked with me through all the hardships, through Vaya's autism diagnosis and everything. And even times where it was hard for me to actually pay the rent. And then from the times when I lost my job and I couldn't find a job for a month or two or whatever, she even, helped me, like, oh yeah, you can go here and try to go here or whatever, to, basically try to help out the situation. So either way, long story short, God has you. Don't give up. Trust the process. I know that right now you don't know what's going on. And that's the problem a lot of times with us humans. For the most part, we want to know everything and know everything before it happens. But I just urge you just to trust God, because once everything unfolds, you'll see that he has you all in his hands, and the process and the plan is going to work out for your good no matter what it looks like right now. So no matter what, stay encouraged, be encouraged, and just know that you are worthy, worth it, and priceless. And until next time, bye.